For instance, Texas is red state. All right? Texas is red state, red as in the color red. You will not need to pay any federal taxes. Let me say that.
Thank you for joining us today. Got it. Let me record it. Got it. Thank you for joining us today. We need to resume. Thank you for joining us today. Jackie just joined us. A few people are joining us on YouTube. We are very pleased to welcome you in to this series of coronation lectures that started as part of having a beginning. It's a new beginning in the United Kingdom and the English-speaking world, particularly those that are from the Commonwealth countries. So I want to welcome you. For those of you joining, Jackie, if you like to just put in the chat box why or where you're calling from or where you're joining us from, and also put in the chat box why you logged in. What are your expectations? Those of you on YouTube, the same is applicable to you. Please put in why you logged in today, and also where you're logging in from. We are not starting until the top of the hour when other audiences will join us via Instagram, because we're on Instagram Live, and also via Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. So we are on audio and visual. For those of you that have access to Clubhouse or members of Clubhouse, if you go to @Chris Imafidon, you will see that we are going to be live in Clubhouse in another 4 minutes. That's when they will join us. So thank you. I want you to be active because this is an interactive session. It's not just a lecture in the sense of somebody speaks all the time and every other person listens. It is interactive because we will want you to get some things very clear about today's topic. I mean, productivity. Why do we need to put so much emphasis on productivity? Why is it important that we bring in different people with different expertise to address us on this issue? So if you're logged in, I will expect some level of activity from you. And if you have any questions, please put the questions you may have in the chat box. If you have any questions, put the questions you may have in the chat box, because we are going to be actively monitoring contributions from the chat box. we are actively interested in what is happening in the chat box, because some of you may not have the wherewithal to be able to move in and do things seriously today. We'll start up with a video. When there's a video section, we're going to show specific things that have happened before on video. So there's the video section, and then there is the audio section as well. So we are going to be sharing the best. Somebody's asking where is the best place to watch to participate. Oh, it's up to you really. I know some if you're busy, you can just listen in via Clubhouse if you're very busy. If not, if you are a visual learner, you want to get you want to cram the whole thing in, I will suggest that you seriously consider, this is one point, seriously consider either the YouTube, and if you're one of those people privileged to have the link to Zoom or Zoom. So the YouTube channel is the Excellence in Education channel. Let me repeat, the YouTube channel is the Excellence in Education channel. And the hashtag for our talk today is Coronation Lectures. And the second hashtag for today's specific session is speed reading. Hashtag speed reading, hashtag Coronation Lectures. So we'll count down in the hour, and then we'll welcome our friends joining us by Clubhouse. And please, I need you to put in the chat box why you came. I need you to put in the chat box why you are part of this program today that is specifically looking at, you guessed it, yes, today's program, we're specifically looking at what can we do to boost our reading? What can we do to boost our reading? That's today's session. So if you are just joining us for the first time, you're welcome. We want you to be aware of the reason for today's class. We want you to know that today's class is specifically addressing the twin issue of learning and reading. I want to welcome Jill. I want to welcome Joanna for joining us via Zoom. As I mentioned before, if you are joining us via Zoom or you are on YouTube, can I please ask you to type in where you are joining us from? And if you also be kind enough to say why you are joining us. Where are you joining us from, and what is the reason for joining us? So why and where? Let's go. All the participants will be able to win a specific bonus at the end of this session. Yes, you heard me right. At the end of this session, all participants will be able to win a specific unique, specific and unique prize. So if you're a participant, you will be able to win a unique and specific prize. And this is based on your participation. I can tell you something about the prize. I can tell you something about the prize. It's very, very easy. Is from the new King of England. Very easy. Is from the new King of England. I don't know why we still say new, because he's been on the position now for almost 6 months. Yes. Yes, indeed. So you will be able to pick up that particular prize if you participate, and I will give you the QR code and you'll be able to get it. And that's for all of you that are joining us via Zoom. If you're in Clubhouse, you need to back channel me. If you're in Clubhouse, if you are listening to us via Clubhouse, you need to back channel me. When you back channel me, I'll be able to see and discuss the opportunities that are available to you and see how things can be better done. I know some of you are already very aware of how things are done. It ends off monetizing specific global events and activities. Some of you already know it. That's what allows some people to pay so much. Coca-Cola pays multiples of millions every single time there's a World Cup. Thank you, Curiosity. Thank you for joining in and just being curious to find out what is all about. Yes, you're welcome. Those of you on Twitter Spaces, please go on to the comment section and indicate to us, especially what city you are from, what city you're joining us from, and more importantly, what is the key reason why you took out time out of your busy schedule. So you took out time out of your busy schedule to join us. So I want to say, please, welcome to this special session like you've never had before. This is a very unique session, and our dedication today, we are dedicated to addressing this big issue of how do you become even more productive right now? How do you become even productive? How do you become productive? When you have tons and tons and tons of specific information to digest, how do you become productive? It's very simple. Some people think you are born naturally to be productive. Others believe that you acquire the skills. At the end of today, it will be very clear in your mind which school of thought is true and how best to get your team at work. If you're working with a team of people, your employees, as well as your managers, to be 4 times more productive, 5 times more productive, or 6 times more productive. How do you become more productive? According to the recent survey by McKinsey, 70% of the task done by white-collar jobs, white-collar occupations, is directly linked to reading, information processing, or knowledge. Let me say this slowly. It will interest you that in our world today, we are now confronted with what we've never, ever had to deal with. We've never, ever had to deal with this issue. All of us have had to use devices thanks to lockdown in ways we never thought of, in ways that was never, ever taught us when we were in school. This is essentially why we need to update. If we don't update, the competition that has an inferior product or services will take the lion's share of the market, and humanity will be poorer for it. This is the reason why all of us have to be extremely serious with what is happening today. We've got to be very serious with it. So if you are the CEO of your company, or you are involved in any decision making, or you are the manager of a group of people and team, you need to bring out your pen and make a note of this. If you're in a white collar job or occupation, the need for you to read has never been greater. The need for you to consume information has never been greater. However, the tools, the techniques you are using, and the technology you are deploying, all of us are victims of our habits. They were developed years ago. So the operational efficiency required to be successful in today's world now eludes up to 70% of our workers. So if you employ any worker and you want to have maximum productivity, you got to ask yourself this simple question: how many of your emails have they replied to on time? Please write this down. If you're if you're here on this call, please write it down. How many emails do members of your team or your department or your unit at work or your employees, how many emails do they reply to on time? When I gave this seminar to a group of people at the O2 Intercontinental, and these were people that came from the financial sector, because the people in the city and the Canary Wharf are more interested in how can we do things quicker, better. They are more interested in efficiency. The question they said was not how soon, is whether they even read the emails. So that's a fundamental problem. Most people have unread emails that are related to decisions that they need to have taken yesterday. Others have unread materials, and yet they have to come to a conclusion and make an economically sensitive decision. If you're in that category, please type yes in the chat box. Are you in a category where you have to go through some information? It can be emails, it can be letters, it can be a brochure, it can be booklets. If you have to read them and then come to a decision whether to sign up a relationship with the company or to sign on a particular individual, please type yes. That means your work is sensitive to the amount of information you have. Please type yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for typing yes. Thanks. So we are in the right room Because we are confronting the same problem. All of us are confronting the simple problem of time and task. So we have tasks allocated to individual members of our team, or tasks allocated to individual member of staff. If you have tasks allocated, you have to bring in the time. You have to bring in the early bird. That means those that are able to complete the task early bird. You have to bring it to those just in time. And then you have to give it to those that are asking for extension to a deadline. And I've had them. If you have any member of staff that have ever asked for extension to a deadline, is a reflection of this disconnect between time and task. And please, you don't have to blame them. Don't blame them for it. Because do you know what the OECD said about the reading age of the adult? The adult worker in the UK, in the US, in Canada, the OECD countries. Do you know what the reading age is? So don't blame your staff or members of your team if they are reading slower than you expect. Because the average reading age of your staff that you hired is the 4th grade. 4th grade. And you can tell why. Because the last time all of us in this call had any structured reading drill or training was when we were in the, guess what? 3rd or the 4th grade. So humans acquire the habits based on training, teaching, and exposure. This is a very worrying thing if you have staff and you have tasks that are sensitive to time. So this is the reason why the title you are seeing on the screen, I hope everybody is seeing my screen. Please, if you are seeing my screen, type yes. I hope you are seeing my screen. Just type yes screen or yes slide. Yes screen or yes slide. Just type it there if you can see that. This is why anytime you are talking about earning without learning, you're in real trouble. Because ability of anyone to be able to earn more is a function, is a direct function of, listen to this, I think this will probably shake you and some of you will clear your nostrils. Your reading speed. Because, oh, why would you say that? Warren Buffett, the Warren Buffett, for a long time, the richest person on planet Earth, was invited as a special guest to the MBA program of Columbia University. Columbia University, like, you know, it's an Ivy League university. Was invited to Ivy League University and he spoke about wealth creation. He spoke about what it means to be successful. He spoke about what it means to be a shrewd investor. And you will not believe it, he was asked a question by one of the students. Sir, we know you are a multi-millionaire. Sir, can you tell us your secret? Tell us your secret. He said, oh, it's very simple. Remember, this is Warren Buffett, the confidant of every single president since President Ronald Reagan. So it doesn't matter whether you are a Democrat or you're a Republican or you're an independent, they consult him when it comes to matters of wealth, business, and commerce. The Canadian president, the Canadian prime ministers consult him. The presidents of most of the Latin American countries consult him. He said, in very quiet and confident tone, you have to read 500 pages at the very least a week. This is the secret he told those students. And he went on to confirm that he himself reads at least 500 pages a day. But most times he reads between 600 to 1,000 pages in one single day. That's Warren Buffett. Because his decision making is based on the information he has. So he has to read the annual reports, he has to read the financial statement. So he has to read, he cannot rely on the third party. Elon Musk, who is currently the world's richest person, knew this. And can you remember what? I'm going to share this with you for those of you that wait till the end and are given the opportunity to work with me, because my time is very tight. Work with me after today. I'm going to share this with you. You will see it yourself. How much Elon Musk reads in one day? In one day. Because he knows that if he makes the wrong decision on the basis of limited information, it will be very costly. Please, can you write that down? If you have limited information, you are always going to make a wrong decision. So the idea of saying, oh, don't worry, it doesn't matter, based on the information I have, no. It's based on all the information that is required for you to buy a company. If you want to buy a company, you have to do what is called due diligence. And Warren Buffett will be the first person to tell you that 75% of his due diligence is going through pages and pages and pages of information about the company, about the sector the company is in, about the forecast, and about the historical data. This is Warren Buffett defining due diligence. So if you are today, you are in any position to make a decision, please note that limited information will disadvantage you. Limited information will make your competitors have you for breakfast. So you have to read. The richest Black woman on planet Earth, she just overtook Oprah Winfrey, has a special reading program for herself and for her mentees. And again, I'm pleased to be able to I will share this with you so that you see some of the things I'm talking about. Now, what about the king and queens? You might want to say, oh, the politicians that you have, that you've seen. I have had the privilege of working with Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. At the time of her sad death, I was the chairman of her STEM and education program. As the head of state, she gets what is called the red box. I know some of you see it each time there is a budget being announced by the finance minister, the one you call Chancellor of the Exchequer, to Parliament. They show you a red box. That's just for show. That's to dramatize one or two things. But the truth is, as a head of state, Her Majesty received boxes and boxes and tons and tons and tons of paper. She was not just, I hate the word ceremonial. She was not just a ceremonial head of state. She was a functional. That means she sat down, she read, and she signed. She didn't depend on, quote unquote, her staff for vital situations. So the Queen's reading speed, I can disclose to you, was twice, that's this on a bad day, twice the speed of your average staff, of your staff. She had to read volumes of papers, sign them so that it goes back for the government as a head of state. So it's not glamour. I saw the non-glamorous, non-filmed, you know, when the cameras are gone, I saw the real inner workings. And our website is right at the bottom for those of you that are just joining us. This whole thing is thanks to the Excellence in Education program. If you're just joining us, we are looking today at boosting our productivity by increasing our speed to read. We're identifying key leaders in this world, in business, key leaders in politics, key leaders in religion. It doesn't matter whatever sphere you're in banking, in law, in engineering. Key leaders have to read tons and tons and tons of information in order to make key decisions that affects the entire sector. So I'm just sharing that book. Our privilege to write a book on Her Majesty the Queen. Those of you that have time to, if I have time and we're able to work together, I will give you free copies of the book so that you use it to practice your reading. I'm trying to show something. I'm trying to say how you can double or quadruple your reading. How? And I'm establishing the first facts. Why you must? Because the volume of information you have right now, you don't have enough time in the day to be able to go through all of them. If you read like a fourth grader, because that's what the OECD study tells us. So our staff are reading like a fourth grader. No wonder they are unable to reply to all emails. No wonder they are able to deal with the backlog. No wonder they are always asking for specific information when that information is buried in the documents that is sitting on their desk. But they've not had time to read it. Why haven't they had time to read it? Because they are reading at the snail's pace. The snail, the pace at which the snail moves, that is the pace our workers are reading at. So if you have such habits of very slow reading, expect the results to be missed deadlines. And what is more painful is missed opportunities as well. So it's not just mixed deadlines, but mixed opportunities. If you're in business, you know that you're not just reading for fun, you are reading because you need to make a decision. And that decision will affect, modify, or change everything you know. The gentleman that's having a handshake here, please, I want you to look very closely because he's going to play a role. You are going to see him more on the television in the coming days because of the role he has to play during the coronation of the king. That's Sir Ken Olisa. And this was a meeting we had at Buckingham Palace. You can see the late Queen here on the slide to your left and rather than to my right. The reason I'm bringing this is that if you have anyone that is still in any doubt today about your role as a CEO or as a busy professional to keep in touch with what is happening, this is it. Because he has an army of staff. He has his own charitable body. He has his own IT related body, and yet he's able to combine that with being the Lord Lieutenant for Greater London. Please write that down. The Lord Lieutenant. That means the special representative of the head of state, not the head of government. That means not 10 Downing Street, but Buckingham Palace in the Greater London area. The emphasis that we have today, because I'm bringing the IT in right now, the emphasis we have today is the ease of generating content, written content. Before the advent of computers, that means where we now have computer devices on every single desk. That means the post-1970s. The amount of information we had to interact with, that means read, digest, and act on. So reading is not a passive thing. Was less than 15%. These are studies that is coming out to demonstrate to us that reading is no longer a classroom skill that we're taught in school. You read in school. And most people felt that the last day they would read was the last day they were in the classroom. No. Reading has become a life skill. That means it means life and death. The ability for you to read is no longer something that you are going to say is an optional extra. Because that is the biggest weapon on planet Earth. To wake up Nelson Mandela today, the icons of icons, former president of the Republic of South Africa. Let me quote him. He said, education is the most potent weapon for changing the world. Education. So when you stop your classroom activity, which is schooling, they give you a certificate. So schooling leads to certification. But education is part and parcel of life. And I'm pleased that most of you joined this class today or this session today because you were keen and you were curious. And that's what is the trigger to educate yourself and your team and your unit, because the banks bring me into this from time to time. If your team is very talented, but they are not trained, I can tell you what will happen to your productivity. I can tell you what will happen to your success. I don't need to be a soothsayer to make that clear to you. That is essentially how life is now, and this is how things are going to work out. So if you are on this call, particularly those of you that are on Zoom and those of you that are on YouTube, you now need to take one exercise. And if you forget everything I say today, you cannot forget this simple fact. You can't. The current speed you have, if you know your reading speed, I need you to type it in your comment section or in the chat box. What is your current speed? Please, I need everybody to type it there because we are going to measure the distance you ran before, 100 meters, and then we're going to do it again, 100 meters, we're going to do it again. We are literally going back to retrain ourselves. Do you know why? All of us, all adults that are living today can do more than what they think they can do. That means all adults that are living today are working under the real potential that they have. So how am I sure? Why am I so categorical about that? Let me tell you something. If you go on my LinkedIn page, you will see the first 2 paragraphs of my description. I had to write that after that thing called lockdown. You see, when the politicians locked us down, they didn't give us any notice. There was no 1 month notice or 2 months notice. Lockdown was lockdown, and before we knew it, we told our staff, please stay at home. Before we knew it, we told our staff devices will be sent to your house. Before we knew it, we gave them the username and the password, and they logged in. We didn't have time to reorientate anyone. We didn't have time. But the workers rose to it. Every employee rose to it. Before that thing called Corona, which is another word for crown, that's why they call coronation. I'll come to that later. Before Corona, everybody thought they had to come to the office to work. But when lockdown hit, they stayed at home. So that means we have more capacity to adapt based on necessity, not based on choice. We were forced out of necessity to either shut down our companies or adapt. And what did humanity do? Every human being that used to go to the office sat at home and worked from home. So working from home is no longer a niche that only a few people have the capacity to do. A little virus blew that up all of us. So if you're on this call, my guarantee to you is that you will double your current reading speed. Guarantee. That's the minimum before today, and before the end of today. And if you are fortunate to be able to work with me, or for me to work with your company, your organization, and your staff, that will also happen to every single department, every single staff. Because all of us have the capacity to improve. I read personally up to, you mean nobody knows their reading speed? Okay, I'll tell you mine for free. I read up to 2,000 words per minute, 1 minute. And some of you have seen me do that on live television. So some of you have seen me do it on with the media. Well, when there's a breaking event, some of you that saw the Royal autobiography knew that I was invited to come and give a synopsis of it and tell the media what was contained in the book. And that was only hours after the book was released. So if I sat down and I read this book, this is the book. This is the book I'm telling you about now. I read this entire book, 400 pages plus, because the media wanted me to come. 400 pages plus in a matter of hours, not days. If I wanted them to give me days, I would have missed the opportunity. So I read up to 2,000 words in 1 minute. And some of you have seen me on BBC doing what is called the paper review. That means you have to come into the studio, and then they give you about 14 different newspapers, and you have to read all of that in 1 hour, and then come and face the presenter and tell the presenter what you think is important in the Times, in the Guardian, in the Metro. in the mirror, in the mail. You don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. I get dragged into the studio and say, okay, Chris, can you please sit down? We're doing a paper review. I say, oh. And people say, how are you able to read 14 newspapers sometimes in 90 minutes? It's very simple. Let me tell you the trick. You start off by reading the tabloids. Do you know why? The tabloid editor are under instructions to use simple words. Any word that is larger than 7 characters or 8 characters, they forget it. They want to keep it simple. So I read very simple newspaper. The tabloids first. You read the Sun first. And you're able to speed through it because comprehension would never be a problem. Because people argue, so are you sure when you read 1,500 words, 2,000 words a minute, A, you will understand what you are reading, and B, you will remember what you are reading? I said, really? Is that your problem? Have you found out what is the reading speed of the average newscaster? Have you?
I'm doing great.
What the average speed of
Welcome to the weekend, everyone.
Never ever be able to answer that question. Because the average newscaster reads 1.5 times and sometimes 2 times the average worker. So if speed was related to understanding, then you will not understand the news. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to do me a favor. Tonight, after this class, I want to do an experiment. Go back to the news. I don't care what channel you like. I don't care. Pick whatever channel you like. Go to the news. Click on the news. But this time, put in text. You know, the news gives you the audio and the video, and it doesn't give you text. So you just see the newscaster, they read, and they don't give you text. Now watch it, listen to this. I beg you, do me this favor. Listen to it, and then 1 hour later, come back and listen to the same news again, but with the text showing at the bottom. You know, text comes up at the bottom, and see what happens to your speed. It tells you one thing, that when the text comes, your visual focus now follows the text. And you will then find out that your reading will kick into it, and then your reading speed will override that of the presenter's speed and will slow you down. Try this. Don't take my word for it, because these are experiments we've conducted with all our students. Everything I'm telling you today are evidence-based. And I'm going to show you some case studies of children as young as the age of 6 going to write a GCSE exam or exams for 16-year-olds. And these students that are 6 or 7-year-olds wrote the same exam as 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, and these 6, 7, and 8-year-olds scored more marks than not the Guinness record. That's, by the way, that's most of my Guinness records. I know some of you know I have multiple Guinness records. That's one of them, or some of them. That the speed at which you read can double. I just need you to understand that. And if you have any psychological barriers to that, I can show you how you can teach your niece, your cousin, your nephew that was not able to come in today, how they can double their own. So when I'll give you the materials. When you've taught somebody else to double their own, then at least you will not have any problems knowing that you can double yours. Every single human being has capacity to do much more than we once believed. Not as a motivational speech. So your reading speed does not affect your understanding. Please, I need you to put that down. Your reading speed does not affect your understanding. Now, let me tell you what affects your understanding. So when I'm reading my newspaper, number one, Most of you know I'm an old man, right? Most of you would have seen that I'm an old man. If you are 30, from the age of 30, again, this has been confirmed, that your love for reading starts dropping. Get all your friends at work, members of your team at work. At the age of 30, your speed, your reading starts slowing down. At 35, it gets to a crucial hurt. So you find that at 38, you grind to a halt and you're forced to go to the opticians or the optometrist or the eye doctor. And then he now gives you a pair of reading glasses. And these new reading glasses almost look like a pair of new eyes because the prints you used to see as tiny and therefore made reading a chore gets bigger and lighter. So one step you must take is get you a pair of your reading glasses, not your bifocals. You know, some people have glasses, they can read with it, they can drive with it, they can do everything with it. No. If you want your speed to be at the optimum, you cannot use your normal glasses. You wear your reading glasses, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you, because with your reading glasses, you have a wider, much wider aperture to be able to read. If you wear your bifocals, you only have half of the glasses to be able to read. And so you have to lift your chin up and read through the bottom. Those of you that are 40 and above already know what I'm talking about. So you go to the ophthalmologist and they give you a pair of reading glasses and they tell you to look through the top for distance and then for driving, and then look at the bottom for reading. If you wear a pair of bifocals or varifocals, you have reduced your reading speed by up to 30%. Just that restriction that you have to literally, because you now have to move your head to be able to read. You now have to move, not just the saccadic movement, you now have to physically move your head. But when you were younger, you only move your eyes and you were able to pick up words. So number one step, get a whole aperture reading glasses. Number one. Number two, and please listen very carefully. You cannot read anymore one word at a time. It's like pain, game, for England. No, that's 100% folly. Your brain was not designed for one word at a time because your eyes were not designed for one word at a time. Your eyes were designed to carry at least 3 different words or 4 words. So you group the words together. When you group the words together, it means when you look at this paragraph, this is a short paragraph in a newspaper, I just look at it once. I don't know whether you can see my newspaper now. Just once. I just group my word once. So I look at 4 words at once. And some of you read 1 word at a time. So you can see the huge disadvantage that you already have. So this is part of the reason why I can do up to 2,000 words a minute. And I have done 2,500 words a minute, by the way. Depending on the subject matter, I have been able to, I mean, it's like driving a car. You know, when you drive your car, you go first gear, second gear, third gear. As your speed goes up, it keeps going. So when I read, I start off reading about 1,000 words a minute. And then as I go on in the subject matter, as I move to the second chapter, because I now know the body, I go up to 1,500. As I move on, I get up to 2,000 words a minute. And I'm going to show everybody on this call how to find your reading speed. First, please write this down. First, get a content that is non-technical. So get the autobiography or biography of any of your friends, or biography or autobiography of any of your role model, or biography or autobiography of the person you love. You know, I was asked to come to speak to a group of young men, and they told me, "Oh, men don't love reading at all. You know, boys will be boys." I said, "Are you sure?" They said, "Yes, they don't love reading." I said, "Okay, I'll show you something." When I got there, I asked them. I said, "How many of you here support a particular football team, and they put up their hands. I said, okay, who is your favorite player? And they named different people. And there was a young man that told me Patrick Vieira. I said, okay, if I give you a book which is an autobiography or biography on Patrick Vieira, please, can you read one page for me? And after that, I'll take it from you and I'll give you a book on the commentary of Macbeth by Shakespeare. And they read a page for me. Ladies and gentlemen, the same person, two different reading materials, the speed was different. The optimum speed was in the subject area, you can guess, of his interest. Because he knows Patrick Vieira, he loves Patrick Vieira, because he loves football and loves where Patrick Vieira plays, his reading speed increased. So your interest in a particular subject will slow or increase your speed. And that will also affect your comprehension. And we do this skill. Is a skill. Reading is a skill. Please, can you put that down? Reading is a skill. If we know it's a skill, every skill can get better. All of us can improve on any skill. Just before COVID struck, down in London at the Excel Center, I had the honor and privilege of discussing with Usain Bolt. The Usain Bolt. And I wanted to find out from him, out of curiosity, that's a simple question. What is the difference between him now, whose position in history is preserved as the fastest man on planet Earth, and him when he was still running and active running? And he told me one simple thing that I would never forget in my life. Anything that is speed related falls down on this. Practice. He told me his training regime. So I train every day. When I wake up every day, I train my eyes to read. Usain Bolt was trying to tell me that because he stopped training, his speed decreased. And Blake, if you are very familiar with athletics, you will know who Blake is. Blake was his training partner. And Blake overtook him. This is somebody that used to look up to Usain Bolt. So the only reason Usain Bolt was a champion was because he was able to practice. So if you practice reading, please put this down. That means you do deliberate practice every single morning. For how long is up to you. I want you to pick your time. If you have 5 minutes, read for 5 minutes. If you have 10 minutes, read for 10 minutes. If you have 15 minutes, read for 15 minutes. Every single day. Do you know what will happen to your reading speed? It will go up. But if you read sporadically, that means you read 10 hours one day, the next hour you don't read at all, and then the next day you read 15 minutes, and then you read 1.5 hours. That's not practice. Ask anybody in the women's in the Lioness. You know the Lioness, the English female football team. Ask them what the manageress does to them. The team manager brings them out, and they do press-ups. Nothing to do with football, but all of them do press-ups. Absolutely, you don't have a choice. You do press-ups. You know what that does to you? It exercises parts of your body that will help you in playing football. There are exercises, mental exercises that you can do that will be the equivalent of press-ups for you, that will boost your reading. It doesn't matter even if you are dyslexic. It doesn't matter if you are dyscalculic. It doesn't matter whether you have a reading difficulty, a reading challenge, or a reading disability. This is across the board. That is how a 6-year-old is able to write the same exam as a 16-year-old And the 16-year-old is unable to finish the exam papers. And that's what hurts me. Honestly, if you don't know the question, if you don't know the answer to the question, that's fine. But if you know the answer to the question, but you're unable to provide the answer because you run out of time, that is a function, not of knowledge, is a function of speed. If you have to make a decision today to take over another company, and the information you require was already in their annual report that was published 5 years ago, flagged up 5 years ago, and because your reading speed is slow, you only managed to read the first 2 years. It hurts me that you made a mistake worth millions of pounds or dollars because you were using the speed that you had in school. The third point I want to quickly make correct, I talked about the visual. That was the first point I made. The second one is the fact that you're grouping words together. The third one is every single person on this call, if I ask you to please pick up your pen with your left hand and write your name. If I say now pick up your pen with your left hand, everybody pick up your pen with your left hand and write your name. You know there's something wrong with that instruction because not everybody is left-handed. If I say pick up a pen with your right hand and write your name, you know the problem with that, not everybody is right-handed. Recent research has revealed that all of us, just like we are right-handed, so that means we prefer to write with our right hand and write better with our right hand and faster with our right hand. And if you give the pen to our left hand, we'll write slower. And those of us that are left-handed, we prefer to write with our left hand. And if you give up the pen on the other hand, we write slower. It has also been found out that every human being on planet Earth has what is called a dominant eye. Every human being has what is called a dominant eye. This is an ophthalmological fact. When you finish here, please type the word dominant eye. So when you are reading, do you read with your text positioned to your dominant eye, or do you read with the text positioned to be equidistant, or do you read with the text positioned to your non-dominant eye? Now, you don't even need to be a rocket scientist if you just do this alone. So when I get on the London Underground and I see people reading their newspapers like this, they open it and they stay in the middle of the page, I worry. They hold the newspaper like this and they read that way, I really worry. Because ideally, you should hold the newspaper to your left if you are left dominant, or to the right if you are right dominant. That way, you gain over 40% of your speed. But we've never been told this. And the scientific research was never done. A question that was never asked, you can never get an answer to that. So why am I saying this? Because I've seen actors and actresses from Hollywood lose jobs because they were sent a script by their agent and it took them 2 weeks to read it. And so until they finished reading the script, they couldn't decide whether they wanted to accept the role or reject the role. So I've had the privilege of working with budding actors and actresses to show them how to speed up their reading so that when they send you the scripts today, by the next morning, you have already made a decision. And they say, oh, how did you know? Say, I read it because I speed read the entire thing. Right from the very first word that's written to the last word that's written, I read everything. So really say yes, okay, test me. Ask me any question. And when they've asked 3 questions, they give us, oh, I never knew such things existed. Because these are just salient points. They are not mathematical. They are not difficult. You don't have to work on your head. I just give you practical points now that you can implement today. And tomorrow, your speed will be different. Not just different, your speed will double. Okay. And some of us, let me emphasize this last point and I'll take some questions. Some of us acquired very bad reading habits without knowing. Because when we started school, we were taught by our teachers, hey, John, Mary, Andrew, please, can you read the book for me? And then you brought the book out and you read forward, introduction, the service is conducted, and the teacher was very happy with you. That was reading. Every reading you did was out loud. And because all of us started reading out loud, we couldn't stop the habit of reading out loud. Now, what we didn't know is that anytime you read out loud, you are vocalizing. That means you are using your words, using your mouth. And if you use your mouth, the number of words your mouth can call is limited. But the number of words that your eyes can read is unlimited. Let me say this again. There's a disconnect between our speaking and our reading. But in school, we said our speaking and reading were equal. But in real life, it isn't. So when I see people reading and they're moving their lips while they're reading and they're reading quietly, it is called sub-vocalization. Please write it down. Sub-vocalization. S-U-B, then vocalization. Each time you sub-vocalize, what you have done is that you've slowed down the brain and you slow down your reading. So if you don't believe this, I will ask you to conduct an experiment. Buy yourself a chewing gum or a sweet and actively chew or lick your sweet while you read the first chapter of the book. And then the second chapter, take the sweet or the chewing gum out and read it the way you normally read it. Like the boy is going to school. You move your mouth and see what happens to your speed. Sub-vocalization. So those are some of the main things that I take most of the leaders that come to me through. And I don't know how you got your invitation for today's session. You will have seen my interaction with different people, and you will have seen my guidance of certain individuals, so-called famous individuals, who have had to come back and relearn the act of speed reading. And I hate the word speed reading because I'm only removing the obstacles that we picked up on the way that are now literally speed breaks. Like one, not having the enhanced vision, or what I would say, the optimum vision. Number two, not even guiding yourself, because you will have seen, if I was going to ask a question, how many of you have read a book and when you got to the end of it, when you read a line, when you got to the end of it, you came back to the next line and you found yourself reading one line twice? Because you didn't have a guide. If you had a ruler and place a ruler here so that it covers what section of the book has, what line you've read, and they move them and they move that, just that guide alone, just guiding your eyes. And because the news editors always ask me, they say, well, sir, why do you always bring out a guide to read your newspaper? I say, because I don't have time to waste, because I don't want to read one line twice. So I put my line, I put my pen on the line, I read this line, and then I move down to the next line, I move down to the next line. So I do not have the permission to read one line twice, because my eyes are now guided by this artificial prop. And so it becomes not a chore, it becomes an active activity. So you can do things passively, and yet you can do things actively. So I'm just going to see, I was going to Let me share one more slide to you. And please, if you have any question, can you put it in the chat box, because I need you to make, yes. Now here is a slide I wanted to show you. Every single child here, every single boy, girl that you can find here, every one of them have already gotten their GCSEs. Did you hear? I'm using the word plural. Every one of them have already passed their high school exams, which is designed for children that are 10, 11, or 12 years older than them. And I'll dig up the video and I'll play them for you. But if you don't believe me, just go to the website, to the Twitter page. If you're not on Twitter, I think there's a Facebook page, and there is Instagram page, and there is Facebook, Instagram, a LinkedIn page as well. Every one of them are attending ordinary state schools. That means they're not going to any special school. So don't tell me it's a special school. The only thing that was common to them is that they came on our inner city program, and we showed them this very simple principle of accelerated learning. And I will show you a group of staff as well. All the editorial staff of the major newspapers come for regular training as well. Why? Because if you're going to edit a newspaper, you better be fast at reading, because the time, the production time, and the deadlines for editing, atrocious. Very atrocious. I mean, you can't believe it. If anybody was going to tell you how tight the deadline is for those of you that are working through. And then using AI, playing with AI games and apps on your phone that can also assist you in reading. So really, I wish I could show you my cell phone. I wish I could show it to you. I wish I could demonstrate it to you, because they call it assistive technology that picks up the audio of the text and tells me what the audio of the text is. Let me go back and see. Thank you. So if you're on this call, the Zoom call, please, if you have any questions there, because just call on top of the hour. I want us to be interactive. Like I said, we're busy, very busy, business leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and professionals, and I don't want us to waste our time. I need all of you here that have questions based on what you've heard so far, regarding how you and your team, not just you, because if you're a great speed reader and your assistant at work is a slow reader, or the members of your team is a slow, they're going to slow you down. If you are fighting to meet deadlines, it's because of one thing. McKinsey says that 70% of white-collar job is a function of reading. If you have unread emails, that's another one. It's because you are either sub-vocalizing, or you have managed to learn how to group words together. It's not because you were born with a reading speed. No. Nobody is born a bad reader, and nobody is born a good reader. Please don't even begin to introduce genetics to it, because the group of students I showed you there were not of the same racial pool. Not the same racial pool, let alone genetic line. Every human being on planet Earth can read this entire book that the media gave me to read, this entire book in a matter of hours. And not double-digit hours. I'm talking about single digit. I'm saying 9 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours. All you need to do is understand what your reading speed is now and take steps based on what I've showed you or what I've discussed so far. This is my introductory remarks. And don't even begin to think that Warren Buffett was born of a different parenthood. Therefore, you can't. Because the young man that is going to take over from Warren Buffett, I'm going to introduce him to you if I have time to work more with you, has now beaten Warren Buffett in investment, in research. So it's a learned skill, it's a learned behavior. Okay, yes, who has something to say? I need all the participants to wake up, go to the chat box and put in this. Like I said at the beginning, you will win. You're in a competition, you're going to win something, and I'm going to give it to you today and now, based on those that are competing, and those of you that are very keen on taking things forward, hoping to work with me on a more personal basis. By the way, all our training are based on official training. That means it is tax deductible based on previous interaction with others. The banks do it all the time. So please, can you ask any questions, personal questions, or have I disappointed you by my opening remarks? I just want us to have a interaction like a family rather than a formal session. Go ahead. Who's typing in the chat box? Or you can on mic, really. Mute. All of you that didn't know how to do your reading speed, let me tell you what it is. Thank you for your comments. Fascinating. No, I need you to take steps today. Thank you for your comment. If you want to know your reading speed, I want you to get your stopwatch. I'm sure you have one on your phone or a timer. And then get your favorite newspaper. Which newspaper do you read? Or which newspaper would you like to read if you have time? That's a very big comment I made there. If you have time, which newspaper would you like to read? And then set the timer and pick the newspaper and read it for 1 minute and stop. So you time yourself for 1 minute and then go out and do something else. Go cooking, go watch television, go do something else. And then give that newspaper. And anyway, by the time you stop your newspaper, please put a mark on the last word you read. You know, you start reading newspaper, the last word you read, put a mark on it. And then come back again the second time and go to the back or look for any other story in that newspaper. This is the second story. Time yourself again up to 2 minutes and just read the way you normally read, the way you normally very casually. After 2 minutes, take your pen again and mark where you stopped. And look for a very, very strict friend or a critical spouse or a critical sibling, not somebody that is nice to you. Someone that is known to you, but strict, and plead with that person to please count the number of words in the first article you read. So the first article you read is an indication of how many words you can read a minute. It's just an indication. And then also buy some Coke, orange juice, or water for the person. And now ask the person, say, please, this is the second piece I read. Can you count the number of words? And the person will count the number of words. And this time you divide it by 2. If the first counting you did was 200 words, and the second one is 150, then the range of your reading speed is between 150 and 200 words. If it's exactly the same, mathematically the same, then that is your reading speed. If there are no disparities whatsoever. So please do this. And then the next time you have your team, you are on an away day or something that's not happening in the office, test members of your team or your employees by repeating the same thing. Ask them what newspaper they read, time them 1 minute and see how many words they're able to read, and then ask them for 2 minutes and then find out. The reason why they do that, if you did the first one, sometimes it's very off. So that's part of it. Anyone, no questions. Can you speed read from the screen? Absolutely. Thank you very much. All of us can screen read from the screen using our mouse to start with. And 2, using our glasses that is specific to this intermediate distance. Because you know that your reading glasses, those of you who have reading glasses, is absolutely no good when you start working at an arm's length on computer, because computer is arm's length, reading glasses is closer to you, reading a newspaper is closer to you. Yes. So you need to know exactly which materials you are going to read regularly, so you're familiar with them. So vocabulary is not a problem. And I always say this, if vocabulary is not a problem, comprehension is not a problem. If comprehension is not a problem, retention is not a problem. Do you find people have different speeds for screen and paper? Yes. But that's using the same text and using the same font size. Do you find, there's a question here, very good question. Do you find that people have different speeds when they are reading screens or when they are reading the newspaper? And my simple answer is yes. Why? Because when you read from certain screens, you have the capacity to change the font size. And there are some font types and font sizes that are very, very friendly to the eyes. And there are some that are very hostile to the eyes. So you do your settings in Word to make a default font size and default font type. And every single time I read from my computer, I'm faster than when I read from paper. I'm giving you as example. Why? Because the font size of the book is fixed by the people that wrote it. I don't have control over it. But the font size of the document I have on my screen, I have control over it. So I can make it bigger, and so I can see it easier, and it's friendlier to my eyes. So that's a very good question, very practical question. And a lot of the publishers, you will have seen my Obama book. I was made to review the autobiography on Barack Obama. And by the way, you can Google it right now. You can go Google my last name, Professor Chris Imafidon or Imafidon, and then Barack Obama, and see the autobiography when he did his autobiography with Penguin. The reason I'm saying this, you know, some people say, I already have the hard copy of the book, I don't need the ebook. I always say, I need the ebook, I don't need the hard copy of the book. Because my preference for information absorption, not accumulation. Absorption, that means how you get your information through to your brain. You will find out with time. I'm sure some of you have not reflected on this. If you watch all your staff members, each one of them have their own way. You see some people, you send them an email, bulk email, BCC, and they print out their emails, you don't have to read it. And some people, they read their emails on the screen. I know there's a bit of environmental, green consideration when it comes to printing, but the individual preference is going to determine what speed you are going to absorb that information. So thank you for that. And like I said, those that are going to work with me, and if you're keen on working with me after this, you let me know. I'll send you the Eventbrite link. There's a small cost for that. It's not to me. 100% of that course goes to charity. So I'm not doing it for financial reasons. I can't do it for financial reasons because I have other things that I'm doing that are more serious to me. I'm just sharing this as a skill that I've used to help my mentors, to help my mentees and my proteges. All right, please think of more questions. I'm very disappointed. The questions are too easy. Think of more difficult questions. And if you haven't asked any question, I'm going to have to ask the bot, the robot, my AI bot to remove you because you are asleep. So type in your questions so that the bot knows that you are alive and well. And then I'll play for you a video, one of the most annoying videos that the BBC has done on me. I'm going to play it for you, but I will beg you in advance to forgive me because the BBC was, the line of questioning was not what I wanted, but it still makes the general point about your ability to assimilate a lot of information quicker if you change the technique. If you change, the only thing I want you to change is the tools you are using. That's all. That's the only thing I'm begging you to change. And change that for your entire team. And change that for your employees. Why am I saying this? My mother told me a story, about her grandfather. Her grandfather had a lot of land, big expanse, and was great in the agrarian part of the agrarian revolution, and invited a young man to come and work for him. And the young man came energetic, was very happy, said, yes, I'm going to do all the work. And they gave him the implements he needed to use. So he started with the first field. The first day he came in with energy. He cut the grass because this was a pre-planting season. There's the good old days, they had the harvest season and the planting season. And this young man cut the grass, and was very happy with himself. And they went home. And then the next day, the young man came, cut with the same energy, the same tool. And when it was time to go home, he measured it. He found out that he covered less ground the second day than the first day. Meanwhile, he was going to be paid the same amount. So he was very worried. He said, oh, what could have gone wrong? He looked at himself. He was very disappointed. He said, okay, the third day, when he got home, he told his wife, the third day, the wife gave him park lunch, said, because it's a new opportunity, please don't blow it. Just don't blow it. Whatever you do, great opportunity, work with this great man, and then we won't have any problem in life. The third day, the young man came to work again and took the implement, heard what the wife said, highly motivated, took the cutlass and then cut. And when it came to the time to go home, he measured it. It was even less than the second day, which was less than the first day. So he was most confused. On the fourth day, after seeing such decreased productivity, he had to admit to his new employer, sir, I'm worried. So why are you worried? I heard you've been working, you're doing a great job. Say, no, the work I did the first day was this long. The second day was shorter. The third day it was even shorter. I'm very worried. And then the old man said, Did you use the same implement? Say, yes, of course. Did you put in the same energy? Say, yes, of course. Say, can I see it? He went enthusiastically, brought it and showed it to him. Said, okay, young man, there's something you don't understand about tools. The tools you used yesterday will not give you the same result as today. And the tools you're using today will not give you the same result as tomorrow. If it's the same tool that you haven't sharpened, you haven't refreshed it. The same tool. So this is what I'm trying to tell all of us now. The techniques and the tools we used yesterday will give us yesterday's results. The ones for today will be less, except, of course, we upgrade. The first time I read the Queen's biography, when they asked me to come and review it, I read it electronically. I did not read a paper copy because I asked for an e-copy of it. And then when I then phoned them to say, thank you, I've completed it, they thought, oh, he's the genius professor. Oh, what do you expect? He's the no, it is not a genius professor. He's a mediocre professor using the superior tool. It's not a genius professor. It's very, very mistaken. That's why I'm correcting you ahead of time for the BBC, because I need to, let me show you, let me share with you this video, because you need to see it so that you understand some things here. And those of you on YouTube, you can in fact get hold of it on YouTube as well. I think part of it's on YouTube. And it is an interview, or say how we won the world record, or how we topped the class. This is the a video I want to share with you now, because the BBC is very quick to tell you that I'm a genius, and that anybody that does things at such a speed is a genius. And so you don't have to worry to train to improve what you are supposed to do. Therefore, you are happy as a mediocre. No, don't accept that from anybody, please. Let me just show you this. I think here we go. I'll share this link with everyone that goes on with us later. Please ask your questions if you have any. If you don't have any, the robot is going to kick you out, thinking that you are not a member of the human race.
Professor Chris, I actually put some questions in the chat, but I might as well ask it now.
Okay.
You talked about response.
I'm coming. Let me just shoot this. I'm going to read everything in the chat. Let me just shoot you this video. 1 minute, and then I'm going to come back. Listen to this BBC. I hope you can all see this.
It's 17:06 GMT, the BBC World Service. Coming up, a father who's developed a teaching method that has helped all 5 of his children get into Oxford University. He says he can help children develop the same learning techniques, particularly in maths. Now, students in many parts of the world are preparing to start their next academic year in September. For many 16 to 17-year-olds, they may be embarking on higher school certificates, A-levels, for instance, or the International Baccalaureate. But imagine being a primary school child between the age of, say, 7 and 13, taking these exams and passing well. Well, it's a massive feat that has been achieved by students of the Excellence in Education Academy, run by Professor Chris Amafidon. All 5 of his children achieved outstanding marks in their O-levels and A-level exams while still in primary school, and they've gone on to university. Well, Chris Imafidon has passed these skills down to other children, particularly in the area of East London. And he joined me in the studio with 2 of his young students who've just passed Maths GCSE. It's 9-year-old Frances and 13-year-old Deborah. She began by telling me how the professor helped them master maths.
I found it something not hard like what other people around my age might expect it to be, but I just saw it as a subject which I can enjoy.
People say practice makes perfect, and if you can apply that to maths, you can really see it as a game.
Okay, so Professor, you taught them well. They've got the answers down pat for a start. But what is the excellence in education methodology? How do you convince 9-year-olds like Francis or 13-year-olds like Deborah that maths is a game?
It's showing them. I wish I had a mouse here. I would have clicked on online and pulled up Manga High and say, okay, you have a robot moving across, and the second robot coming, and the third robot coming, and they ask you how many robots do you have. You just type in 3 and hit 3, and then it says, wow, good. And then you say, okay, we have mummies coming from this side, 2 and 4 coming from that side. How many do you now have? So that's an addition game. Then you can have a subtraction game, and you can have a multiplication game. See, anything we do over and over again becomes easy for us. Anything. It's just pattern recognition and following the numbers. But if you bring it to the classroom and write it down in pen and paper, then people are, I'm afraid of maths.
But here we have Francis and Deborah. What did you use in order to spike their interest? You know, you have equations, you have algebra. Yeah. How do you break those down so that youngsters can understand it?
Oh, easy. Come with a bowl of fruits. Have bananas, have apples, have oranges, and say count the number of fruits. So you count 2 A's, apples, plus 2 B's, banana, and then oranges. So you're just sorting things out. And for him, because he supports Tottenham, he has to follow the...
Oh dear, I support Arsenal.
Rivalry. And he knows that for the football, it's a game of numbers. We have a league table. There's a match on Saturday. If your team plays and wins, what position will they be on the league table? That's a technically mathematical exercise. You say X unknown. If you win, X becomes 3 points. If you lose, X becomes 0. If you draw, X becomes 1. But he's still thinking football. But he's using mathematical equation to work out 2 or 3 unknowns and say, okay, we'll be third on the league table.
Deborah, when Professor Imafidon first came to you and your parents, how old were you?
I was 10 years old.
So just 3 years ago. How was it when the professor first gave you his formulas and algebra? Was it easy for you to understand?
It was easy for me to understand because Dr. Chris
used real life problems.
Okay, I'm going to send you, because of time, I'm going to send you a copy of that video and multiple videos that tells us that our techniques in life is far more important than our genetic makeup, all right? Because we've done this in low performing schools. We've done it with corporate organizations. We've done it everywhere. That's part of the reason why the Guinness people contact us from time to time and say, what's up now? Every single person, thank you for your comments here. Every single person that is on planet Earth has the capability to beat me. Let me say this slowly. You that is hearing the sound of my voice today, you will be able to read faster than me. That means you'll be doing 2,500, 3,000 words in 1 minute. The average for your workers today is 200 words a minute. That's the average. So can you see the waste, the sheer waste? Why? Because we are holding on to old traditions that were good only for the gone by years and are completely useless in the AI generating world that we are all into now. You say, really? What does that mean? I don't have time. I will have shown you the book that I wrote on Princess Diana. It became a bestseller on Amazon, on Waterstones. I mean, all the other big ones, right? Because I worked with her charity while she was alive. I mean, she was quite helpful to the charities in inner cities. So I got to know about what she did, her impact on charitable work, and we wrote on that. The whole book, the last edition was generated by AI. I mean, the entire book was written by AI. So what I'm trying to tell you, not recently, I'm not saying recently, I can show it to you. I think I can share it on, I can share the Amazon link here so you can go and see it, because some of these things are stranger than fiction, right? For a 7-year-old from an inner city school to go write the same exam that the Etonians who've had the best of education, tuition and support, write and they get a C. And then someone from Hackney, by every single league table published in the 80s, Hackney was classified as underperforming. By every league table. Got a black girl, listen to this, a black girl of black heritage, not mixed heritage, to write the German GCSE in year 9 and score the highest marks in the entire country. So if it's genetic, why would she score more marks than students that were German? That means father is German, mother is German. Why would Chimemela, her name is Chimemela. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, I can share the link with you. Every single case study I'm giving you, they are still alive. She's gone to New York to work with UBS as a manager. And now she's back to London as the one of the vice presidents of Barclays Bank. So this is not a story. This is a reality. So if you see, how do we increase our speed reading? How I mentioned a few of them. What about mindfulness when reading? Again, we can come to that. But yes, if you want to work with us, we'll go through all of that. But the ones I've discussed today, the 5 points I've listed out today, if you can implement that, you will quadruple. I mean, it compounds. You will quadruple your reading speed. I will sign that and say guaranteed. Now, if you have a wider reading space, not just a restricted reading space that comes with varifocals, I can demonstrate this for you because the entire length and breadth of your eyes has to open, because in ophthalmology, they give it a big word, posh word, binocular vision. So what is that? Listen to this. If you want to know what binocular vision is, take a piece of paper and cover your left eye. Cover your left eye and read with only one eye. And note how quickly you were able to read. And then take that cover, place it now on the right eye and read. And see how fast you were able to read. The fact that you were giving 2 eyes means that you are giving a wider working space. So when you open the 2 eyes, you are able to see wider. And so you capture 4 words at the same time. You don't, the boy is going to school. I mean, that is so bad. But that's all we've been taught. So I can't blame the workers for that. That's the legacy the school gave to us. That's what the system taught us. That is wholly inadequate. Because as you are looking at my screen, you can see the coronation. You don't have to read then the coronation. When you can see the coronation as literally together. So you demonstrate this, we show this. Let me see when I can pull out this Eventbrite thing. I'm very conscious of time because I don't want to take more time than necessary. But since you ask, I will want to clarify this. This is event on Eventbrite. You will see event. Okay. I just need to pull this up for you to see, because you were not born with a reading speed. You acquire it, you refine it. This is one here. Okay, this is it. And this one here, I was very modest. I said, read a book in 1 week. I'm putting the link is in the chat box now. when you have time, you can look at that, but I think I can share that really. Yeah, I can share that. Let me share this. Okay, yes, on your screen, if you can see my change screen, here is how to double your speed. And again, this is guaranteed. This is guaranteed. And you do this for 5 days. That means every day you do the exercise. And we've had that oh, this is a young man. Oh, I wish I had time to discuss with you about him. He made 30 million pounds or $40 million on the basis of the app he wrote on summarizing. This is Anne-Marie at the age of 15, according to the BBC, have already cleaned up master's level knowledge because it's like lightning. And then here is the Sun newspaper. Here's the BBC. Here is the president of Ghana. Oh, that's another interesting thing. We now have a program. Let me just pull this up. Pull this up. We now have a program where we have ministerial briefing. They call it ministerial briefing. Because as a minister, you have to know quite a lot within a short time. And there's no, you can survive that without being able to, you heard them saying they mastered their briefs. That means you were able to understand what you needed to do. So they'll switch a minister, like you heard today, to a new department. That minister has to master his brief as if he was there last week or last year. And the ability to be able to get all this information is a function of what? Your reading speed. Do you apply these mentors to music? Yeah, everything. 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 It changes your life. And that's the reason why the multimillionaires that I know, every one of them, have not seen one single person in my troubles that have not asked me, hey, when can you run another course? But I said, but you're already doing 1,000 words a minute. Say, no, I want to beat you. And this is why I'm so confident. I'm so happy that some of the people that I helped start this journey are now doing faster than me, because it's very simple. They do more exercises, reading exercises, than I do. I have more non-reading activities in my roles and responsibilities today than I used to have. But I know how to go back to my original speed if I wanted to. Just like Usain Bolt was saying in Excel, if he wanted to come back again to race, he has to go to the training regime that he once had. And if he has that, then that's fine. So if you're keen on working more with me, please, because my time is gone. It's now my time, I've exceeded my time. So if you want to work more with me, please click on the Eventbrite link I put in the chat box, or you can Google my name and Eventbrite and then see how you can take it on to the next level with you and your team. I keep saying this, you and your team, because there's no point you being able to read fast and every other person in your group reading too slowly for you, and then you miss deadlines because you have to work as a team. And if you work as a team, then you can be so-called accountability bodies to each other. So I keep an eye on you, you keep an eye on me, and from there we rise together. If you want to do it as a solo person, a solopreneur, it's a very, very hard slog, because you are changing old habits. If you've gone past the age of 40, it's even tougher. It's not impossible. I have a 94-year-old that picked it up. So don't say you are too old to learn. Don't say you
My mentor is 94.
Oh, 94 years young.
Exactly. Young at heart. Yeah.
Okay, Mark, do you have anything to say? I think, I know I've exceeded my time. You said 90 minutes.
No, just how utterly inspiring you are. You're incredible. You're changing people's lives, and you're passionate about helping young people like I am, and also the older generation as well. I feel quite sure. I love, like, one of the members of the Powerful Women group is called Christine Lester. She's in her 80s, but she embraces this technology, and she's learning, and she's not watching Homes Under the Hammer like a lot of old people do. She's still alive. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Who wants to on mic? If you want to on mic and say something or ask any question, I'm very free. I'm happy. I'm in my sitting room.
Do you realise that the leading UK family lawyer is on this call?
Oh,
aren't you,
if
Joanna?
you're a lawyer, you know that you read for life.
Yeah.
So if you can get your team together, because I work with some attorneys in the States and in Canada, is always the same thing. Young people coming from college, they hate reading because they were told at college, once you pass your exam, you will never need to read again. That's the first lie they told you.
She's just unmuted herself. Haven't you, Joanna?
Okay, Joanna, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you had.
I can't hear you.
No, you are still muted.
Okay, so what I think is really interesting is your approach to learning, because when I was really young, as like a 5-year-old, I was really smart at maths. So I was being taught with 11-year-olds. You know, it's just because I started school about, I think I was almost 5, but within about a year, 18 months before I left that school at 6, I just kept going up in classes. They didn't worry, and they put me with other people. And then we moved house and I moved to another school. And then I was just really terribly behaved because I was really bored. And I felt after that I was really frustrated, and I spent sort of years not doing very much. And I think that when you're young, you have this amazing potential. And I felt the education system most of the time just wasn't, it was working against learning.
Yes.
So, and I think it's really interesting what you're doing. Really interesting.
I take it you've both seen Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk, where he talks about why schools kill creativity.
Yeah,
well, not creativity, they don't teach you.
Yes,
you know, I was doing long division at age 6, and
Wow.
years later I remember teaching my son for 11 plus. I'm like, hang on, but I was doing this at 6, but then, and then after that, my maths just declined. Where, you know, that's my very first school, because they were willing to teach me things beyond my age, and I was ready to go. And then in the end, I remember doing a maths O-level years and years later and just getting like a C grade or something, because all those years, they just didn't, they killed the education. I mean, what you're doing is how it should be done. That's just my experience.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. We quote unquote, I was invited by the Tony Blair government to advise them. And I was very naive because I thought they meant advice, and I gave them everything. But they said, when they brought in the experts, they said, no, it was not party policy to change the educational direction of the country for good. So, but bless his soul, he gave us an award, and when Gordon Brown came, it was exactly the same thing. So the government is very familiar with my work. The government are very familiar with the work we do. In fact, some of the local authorities support it for the low-performing students so that they come average. but they are not interested to roll it out across the board. Because
Such a
they
shame,
believe-
isn't it?
They
Because
believe
I just,
it be too
yeah,
disruptive.
shame.
So
yeah. When I saw what how my children were taught, just seemed that things were going backwards in lots of ways. And we've got so many more opportunities now to learn differently.
absolutely.
So I think it's just brilliant what you're doing. At least you're changing a number of people, even if you can't change the whole of policy. Really interesting. And sorry,
Yes,
I just want to say something else, just sorry if I may, but
Go ahead.
it was this fast reading. My brother was very fast. My daughter was incredibly fast, such that, you know, when we drove to France, she always uses the library a lot, and her friends don't even know about it. So she read 8 books on the journey, and that was like a day and a half, and she read all 8 books already. But I think we get slowed down, you know, and it is practice because she's always reading. Her reading is fast. But mine is quite slow because I'm a lawyer, and sometimes I read at different speeds. Sometimes, I mean, someone said, I've got these documents, and said, how long do you think it'll take me to read? And he said, well, it took me 5 hours. I read those documents in 20 minutes because it's like, you know, because I'm used to reading legal documents really fast. But then when I read for pleasure, I read it a completely different way. So, yeah, it's really interesting. But I worry as a lawyer that I'm not getting the comprehension. So maybe I want to look into more of what you're doing.
No. The speed is never to do with comprehension.
Yeah.
Never. It's a myth. Never. I can guarantee you that you can read slowly and still not get the gist of the message.
Yeah, when I read slowly, actually, I find I kind of do a weird thing where I read and I thought I have to read that again. I actually find it that's interesting because when I read slowly, it's like I start thinking about something else.
Yes, because the mind wanders.
Oh yeah, that's what happened to me.
The mind wanders. Yeah, the mind wanders. And that's true. That's scientific. That's proven.
I better shut up. Honestly, I don't want to talk all day. I'll mute myself now.
No,
I've got some breaking news.
Yes.
So, I listen to PM on Radio 4 with Evan Davis most days.
Yes, that's one of my favorites. Yes.
So yesterday he was talking about Elon Musk and SpaceX and this the biggest rocket ever. Yeah,
absolutely.
And a lady called Dr. Alice Bunn, OBE, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers and is President of the UK Space Trade Association. She's just joined the Powerful Women group, or is about to. So please give her a big, fat, juicy, warm welcome.
Wow.
She's a powerful woman if ever there was one.
Wow.
Isn't that wonderful, Dot Connecting?
Thank
that
you.
was 24 hours ago, and now she's joining my network. Love it.
Wow.
Anyway, have a great weekend, everyone.
Okay, so
like my T-shirt. I love nanotechnology. I don't know what it is, but it just sounds sexy. All right, then. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
So don't forget the Eventbrite link for those of you that are still asking questions. Please click on the link and make sure that you get the.
I'm definitely going to follow up. Thank you. I have to go, but thank you. I definitely want to follow this up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good to meet you, everybody.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was amazing.
So I'm going to. Thank you very much. If you can go on my LinkedIn page and write your recommendation there, or write your comments on my LinkedIn page. That'll keep some people happy.
I promise.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.